Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down why we so often get stuck when we're trying to learn something new. And you know what? The real reason might surprise you, but the fix, it's actually pretty simple.
So let's kick things off with a story that probably feels a little too familiar. We've all been there. A student is just hitting a total wall in a really tough class. They're lost, they're frustrated, and they're starting to think, maybe I'm just not smart enough for this.
Okay, so picture this. A student is staring at a page, trying to balance chemical equations, and it is just not making any sense. It's not clicking, and their grades are tanking. So what does everyone assume? Well, the problem has to be chemistry, right?
But what if the obvious answer isn't the real answer? What if the problem wasn't chemistry at all? In this case, the real root of the problem was a tiny little knowledge gap from all the way back in the 4th grade. See, they never ever truly mastered fractions.
And this kind of thing happens all the time. It's a direct result of how our education system is built. We move kids forward based on their age, based on the calendar, not based on whether they've actually mastered the material.
I mean, just think about how we look at grades. A student gets an 80%, a solid B, and we all pat them on the back. We think, hey, that's great, good job. But that B grade, it's hiding something.
And there it is. It's hiding that other 20%. That 20% is a knowledge gap. It's a crack in the foundation. And even though 80% seems good enough to move on to the next grade, that missing 20%, well, it doesn't just go away.
And this right here is the core of the issue. These small little gaps start to add up. They compound one on top of the other. Because each new concept is built on the last one. And if your foundation has holes in it, eventually the whole thing just collapses. Your knowledge base starts to look like a piece of Swiss cheese.
Because you see, knowledge is hierarchical. It's like building a pyramid. You can't possibly succeed in algebra if you don't have a rock-solid understanding of fractions. And you can forget about calculus without algebra, and physics? No way, not without calculus. Every single level depends completely on the one before it.
You know, to really make this click, let's switch gears and use a sports analogy. Because if we ran a sports team the way we run our schools, it would look completely ridiculous.
I mean, can you imagine a basketball point guard who loses control of the ball 1 out of every 5 times they dribble down the court? Would the coach just shrug and say, 80% is good enough, let's start working on complex 3-point plays?
Of course not. No way. The coach would blow the whistle, stop everything, and say, whoa, 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 we are not doing anything else until you master dribbling, period. In sports, mastering the fundamentals is a non-negotiable. So why do we treat school any differently?
And that brings us to the big solution, mastery-based learning. The idea is so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. You only get to move on to the next topic after you prove you completely understand the current one. No more squeaking by with an 80%. The goal here is 100% mastery before you take the next step.
Now, this isn't some new trendy idea. This concept has been around for decades, and it's backed by more than 40 years of solid learning science. It was famously laid out in a really important paper on education.
That paper is known as Bloom's 2 sigma. The psychologist Benjamin Bloom found that when you combine 2 key ingredients, you get this incredible explosion in learning. What are they? First, you give each student personalized one-on-one coaching. And second, you insist they work to full mastery before moving on.
So how big of a boost are we talking about? Well, it's called 2 sigma for a reason. It means that an average student, someone right in the middle of the pack, in a mastery-based system performs better than 90% of the students in a traditional classroom. They literally jump from the 50th percentile to the 90th. That's a game changer.
Okay, so this all sounds fantastic for someone starting from scratch. But what about all of us who already went through the old system? The ones with the Swiss cheese knowledge? Well, here's the really good news. You can fix those gaps, even years-old gaps, and you can do it incredibly fast.
It turns out that when students use modern learning tools that are built on these exact principles, they can fill in those gaps and absorb new concepts at a pace that's just staggering. We're talking up to 10 times faster than in a regular classroom setting. Let's make this real. Look at these numbers. Using these methods, a student can get to 100% mastery of an entire year of math in a crazy short amount of time. Like all of 4th grade math, 26 hours. All of 7th grade math, just 22 hours. Think about that. An entire year of a subject completely mastered in less time than a single work week.
So the big takeaway here is this. A student who is 3, 4, even 5 years behind in a subject isn't doomed to years and years of catch-up. Not at all. With this focused, mastery-based approach, you can find those gaps and close them completely in just a matter of weeks.
All right, so let's just do a quick recap of the big ideas. First, when someone is struggling to learn, the problem usually isn't the new, hard subject, it's an old, hidden gap in their foundation. Second, our normal, time-based school system basically guarantees these Swiss cheese holes will form. Third, the answer is to think like a coach and insist on mastering the fundamentals. And finally, when you do that, you can unlock absolutely incredible gains in learning speed and performance.
So I just want to leave you with this final thought. Our entire education system is built around time. Hours in a classroom, days in a school year. But what could we unlock for our kids and for ourselves if we stopped looking at the clock on the wall and started focusing on true, deep understanding instead?